Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our presentation on literal translation. My name is Najwa Ijani Molani Alianti, and I'll be your moderator for today's presentation. First, I would like to introduce our speaker. Next. The first one is Iken Ken Sukma Nur Umi Haryanto, and then Siti Marisa Rahmayanti, and the last one is Silpa Muharani. The first material will be presented by Iken Ken Sukma. Time is yours.
Right. Thank you. So for the introduction, skip please. Next. For the introduction, translation is the process of transferring message or meaning from source language to target language. There are many definitions to translation. Some experts state that translation is an operation on language, a process of substituting a text in one language for a text in another. One approach for a text to translation is literal translation, which involves translating each word separately without considering how the words are used together in a phrase or sentence. So literal translation means translating source text to target text word for word. For the example, in the source language, wetlands, including those that form the wetland like floor of Indonesia rainforest, are one of the world's largest carbon sinks. And when we translate to the target language, the meaning is tanah yang dapat dipakai sebagai bahan bakar yang terbuat dari tanah basah atau gambut seperti lantai dari hutan hujan tropis terbesar Indonesia adalah salah satu dari dunia sebagai penghasil karbon terbesar. In that example, the student translate the words of the source language to the target language word for word without considering the source text meaning and structure. The example show that the word wetlands is translated as tanah yang dapat dipakai sebagai bahan bakar yang terbuat dari tanah basah atau gambut. Even it can be translated only, while literal translation can be useful in some cases. It can also lead to the mistranslation of idioms and other nuances of language, which can be a serious problem for machine translation. Literal translation are not only hard to read, but also hard to understand. A translation that sticks too close to the source loses the intended message of the original text. This paper, next. So the next material is varieties of close translation. Close translation is a type of translation that aims to convey the meaning of the source text as closely as possible to the original. It is a translation technique that focuses on preserving the original meaning of the text rather than adapting it to the target language. There are several varieties of close translation, including the first is literal translation. This is a word-for-word translation that focuses on finding metaphorical equivalents in the target language. It aims to preserve the original meaning of the text as closely as possible, even if it results in awkward or unnatural phrasing in the target language. The second is idiomatic translation. This type of translation reproduces the message of the original text by specifically utilizing the target language idioms and colloquialism. It aims to convey the same meaning as the original text, but in a way that is natural and idiomatic in the target language. And the last is faithful translation. This type of translation creates a precise translation while sticking closely to the original syntax and grammatical structure. It aims to preserve the original meaning of the text while making it readable and natural in the target language. So close translation is more of a process of explanation, interpretation, and reformulation of ideas than a transformation of words. Next. So this is the translation of poetry. Next. Translation poetry is a complex process that requires a deep understanding of the source language and culture, as well as the target language and culture. Poetry translation aims to convey the meaning, style, and beauty of the original poem as closely as possible. There are several methods and challenges in translating poetry. For the methods, the first is literal translation. This method translates the poetry word for word, which can result in awkward phrasing in the target language. And the second is metrical translation. This method focuses on preserving the original poem's matter and rhythm, which can be challenging in language with different sound patterns. And the third is rhyme translation. This method transfers the original poem rhyme into the target language, which can result in semantically inappropriate translation. And the last is reverse translation. This method focuses on conveying the meaning of the poem without altering the original poem structure or form. Next. Next, please.
Wait a minute.
Okay. So this is example of translation poetry from the original poem. It's English language. Between my finger and my thumb, a squat pen rests, as snug as a gun. Under my window, a clean, rasping sound. When the spade sinks into gravelly ground, my father digging, I look down. And when it's translated to the another language, in Spanish, it entre mis dedos pulgar, cargo la pluma frente como un arma. Entra por la ventana un ruido áspero, la pala que entera en la grafila y mismo mi padre está cavando. So this example of translation of poetry. The translated poem contains significant change, but it still conveyed the meaning, style, and beauty of the original poem. The translator had balanced rhyme, matter, effect, and meaning to create a translation that is readable, enjoyable, and faithful to the original poem. The translator also had to make trade-offs and compromise to create a beautiful poetic text inspired by the original. Next. Okay, so there are faithful and false friends in the literal translation. Faithful friends are words or phrases in different languages that have similar or identical meanings and spellings. For the example, the first is hotel. In English and French, hotel means the same thing, a place to stay when traveling. And the second is internet. Internet is widely recognized and used with the same meaning in many languages around the world. And then there are false friends. False friends are pairs of words in two languages that look or sound similar but differ significantly in meaning. For the example, the first is gift. In German, gift means poison, while in English it means present. And the second, demand or demander. In English, demand means ask for something forcefully, while in French, demander means to ask. So false friend can cause confusion and misunderstandings, especially for a language learner. It is important to be aware of them when translating between languages to avoid mistakes and miscommunication. Causal friends can arise through various actions such as borrowing, calculating, and semantic shift. Maybe that's all from me. I give it back to the moderator.
All right, thank you, Ken, for your presentation. The next material will be presented by Silpa Muharani. Time is yours.
Is my sound clear?
Yes, it is.
Yes, Silpa.
Okay, thank you for the moderator and thank you for the opportunity. I will here to present some material. The first one is word in their context. Word in their context, it is necessary to translate word in context, which include grammar, syntax, and cultural allusion, because grammar, which is expressed through word, is the fundamental through carrying aspect of a language, and word in their context. It refers to how words change meaning in different circumstances. Context is the set of facts and circumstances that surround a word or phrase in the text. From this example that the word restraint, this we have the three sentences, and every sentences include a word restraint, but there have another meaning. For example, the first sentence, restraint here is to hold back physically, but in the second, to control emotion, and the third is to limit. So the word is the same, but the meaning in the context is different. As a result, it is critical to select the appropriate word to effectively portray the desired idea. Okay, next, please. Second is elegant variation. Elegant variation is used to demonstrate the translator's skill in using colloquialism or synonym. While elegant variation can make the text look impressive and good, but it is not reader friendly. Elegant variation on literal or one-to-one translation are common, and it is sometimes satisfying for understandable translator to write in style or phrasing that is entirely natural to him. However, the variation is irritating to critics. They are not justified in semantic or even communicative translation. Uh, I will send you example in this. Wait. I send in the box check the example of elegant variation. And here, the word fire, blaze, no, and conflagration is the same meaning with fire. They are synonym of kebakaran. See the 3 rumah hancur akibat kebakaran dengan 5 alarm kemarin. Para tetangga melaporkan kebakaran tersebut sekitar jam 4 sore. 2 petugas memadam kebakaran terluka saat memadamkan api. Para pejabat menyebut kebakaran itu mencurigakan. So, in Indonesian language, that's all about kebakaran. But the penulis using the synonym word elegant variation use many words to mean one thing. with the result that in the end, the reader and even the writer don't quite know what is being talked about. Elegant variation can be used to avoid repetition by replacing word with synonym. But repetition is not always a bad thing. Repetition is not always a bad thing, and sometimes when a good thing is found, it is best to stick with it. We can use the elegant variation, but not excessively. Okay, next, please. Back translation test is a procedure translation. It is procedure for ensuring translation quality and accuracy. The process of translating context begins with translating the search language to the target language, followed by translating back to the search language to compare with the original text. So the process of translating context from the target language back to its search language. The process looks like translate the original language, the search language, into the target, and then translate back to the search language, and then compare the original text with the result translation. Usually, this would be used in translating medicine or law, where accessory is required. Okay, next. Accepted translation. When translating institutional terms or concepts, translators should be cautious about immediately translating them into the target language, especially if they already exist but serve a very different purpose in the target language culture. For example, mayor and prefect. In Europe, mayor and prefect is referred to different position of authority. But in Indonesia, mayor is the head of a city. They are elected by the people and are responsible for administration of the city. And the term prefect is not used in Indonesia. However, the close equivalent would be a reason for bupati in Indonesia. So the mayor and the prefect have different meaning in Indonesia and Europe. Okay, that's all for me. I turn back to moderator. Thank you.
All right, Silpa. Thank you for your presentation. The next material will be presented by me. Next slide. Constraint on literal translation. Translation is not just about changing word from one language to another. It is about conveying the meaning of the text in a way that is natural and idiomatic to the target audience. However, there are some constraints in literal translation. Literal translation is not always possible or desirable. Some words and phrases do not have the same meaning in the target language. For example, English phrases such as kids, job, cash, and etc. cannot be translated literally into other language. The second is the search language word may be more common, have more meanings, or be used in a different way than the corresponding target language word. For example, the search language word "cardiac" can be translated as insolence or appearance depending on the text in which it is used. Next. If the literal translation of the search language unit is clumsy or unnatural, then the translation is wrong, even if the rest of the search language text is well written. For example, in the search language press, Ite ne parvenait pas à se dégager de ce officer, translates to did not manage to free himself from his astonishment. The sound clumsy, meaning the translation is wrong. However, a more natural translation would be she could not shake off her surprise. The last one is ordinary language. Ordinary language in English is usually descriptive and informal, characterized by verb phrase, familiar alternatives, antiverb, and verb noun, and can rarely be used translated literally. For example, the English phrase make up is a verb noun compound that cannot be translated literally into many other languages. Next. Natural translation. There are many reasons why people reject literal translation. Most people think that literal translation is uncreative, unintelligent, and incapable of enriching one's knowledge of the source language or target language. However, there are others who believe that literal translation is a valid, important approach and should be used. The only valid argument against literal translation mentioned that literal translation may sound unnatural in the target language. Therefore, it is important to make the translation sound more natural and flexible. The term natural translation refers to a type of translation work that reads as if it were originally written in the target language, with the word used being fitting and accessible to readers in the language. Furthermore, the words, phrases, and sentences used in such translation must obey the grammatical conventions of the target language. For example, the French phrase "l'heure venue" literally means the hour has come. However, this phrase would sound unnatural in English, so it is better translated as "the time has come." Similarly, the French phrase "la maison basse" literally means the low houses. However, this phrase would also sound unnatural in English, so it is better translated as the squat or low-lying houses. Of course, there are times when a literal translation is not possible or desirable. For example, the German word Darstellungen is more general and concrete than the English word representation. In this context, it will be more suitable to translate Darstellungen as drawings, paintings, and diagrams. Next. Recreative translation. Recreative translation is a translation process that goes beyond literal translation to convey the meaning and essence of the source language to the target language. Literal translation is the first step in translation, but a good translator will abandon literal translation if it is inaccurate or if the source text is poorly written. Recreative translation, on the other hand, focuses on translating the thoughts behind the words, between the words, or translating subtext. As Canadian translation expert Jean Delisle puts it in his book, Intercultural Translation Theory and Practice. Recreative translation is a translation that prioritizes rereading and rewriting of the source text in order to produce a more communicative and culturally appropriate translated text for the target audience. This recreative translation is often used when the speaker speaks spontaneously rather than in the translation of written language, where the words delivered are measured more carefully and may make more sense. However, most translations are not creative in this sense. Recreative translation is also often used to translate literary works such as poetry, novels, and plays. And these use figurative and meaningful language. In addition, recreative translation is often used to translate persuasive text such as advertisement and propaganda, such as because the purpose of the translation is to influence the target readers. There are some examples. Next. There are some examples of recreative translation of these adverts. The first one is in French language. Kusau soil voa premier voa sangkayunam vigilongong te Britania. Pahyung avang lavang de la jumi. Fonuri vamong de rimaki mili kuyuti novel. Tivik yuvaye de sesabito. In literal translation, whether this is your first or your 50th visit the Great Britain, we bet that before the end of the day, you will not have failed to notice 1,000 new curiosities typical of the country and its people. And in recreative translation, on your first or 50th visit to Great Britain, you're sure to discover something new every day. And the next is in German language. Of du Goofy Britannian sam yesten ode sam funfjisten mai bisuhsi. Weten wir David du jeden tab imi noch nui bison de heiten betland unleten and dex. In literal translation, whether you are visiting Great Britain for the first time or the 50th time, we bet you'll still discover new things about the country and its people every day. In recreative translation, on your first or 50th visit to Great Britain, you're sure to discover something new every day. Next. Literally translation. Literally translation is the process of transforming a literary work from one language to another. Literary translation is not only concerned with changing the meaning from the search language to the target language, but also with the stylistic tone and aesthetic quality of the work. Literary translation is a field that requires specialist skills and a deep understanding of what language involved, as well as the cultural context of the work being translated. A literary translator must be a skilled writer capable of creating good, clear, and accurate translation. For example, they might translate Il faisait chaud, as it was a blazing hot afternoon. Or Le soleil son de la maison tosses, as the sun bakes the houses bone dry. It's not that modern literary translation don't know French, but they often combine the two languages. For example, with German. Another reason is that modern literary translators prefer to use idiomatic English, which is not always accurate. Maybe that's all I can say. The last material will be presented by Siti Marisa. Time is yours.
Thank you to moderators for the opportunity. So here I will explain about the subtext. The subtext. So the subtext in literal translation often refers to the underlying or hidden meanings, intentions, and connotation that may not be immediately evident in the translated text but are implied or present in the original text. Literal translation, by its nature, focuses on a word for a word, or a close representation of the source's text contents, which can sometimes lead to nuances, cultural references, humor, idiomatic expression, or metaphors being lost in translation. Subtext in literal translation can include first is cultural nuances. Second is wordplay and humor. Next, metaphor and idioms. Then emotional nuances, and the last one is subtle inferences. Next is about the notion of the no equivalent word. Situation where a word or concept in the source's language has no direct or precise counterpart in the target language. This can occur due to differences in culture, context, or linguistic structure. Translators face challenges when they encounter such word or concept, as a direct word-for-word translation may not adequately convey the intended meaning or cultural nuances. Translator must find alternative ways to convey the idea or concept in a manner that is understandable to the target audience while preserving its essence. This often involves using descriptive phrase, cultural explanation, or finding the nearest approximation in the target language. In such case, the notion of no equivalent word underscores the complexities of translation and the need for translation to navigate these linguistic and cultural gaps creatively. So, next, the role of context in literal translation is from accurately conveying the meaning of a text. Context provides the necessary information and cues to make informed translation discussion and to ensure that the translation maintains fidelity to the source text, taking into account the nuances and intricacies of the context in which the original text was written. Context aid in resolving potential ambiguities and capturing the intended meaning while preserving the structure and form of the source's language. The role of context in literal translation. Here are a few key aspects of context in literal translation. Number one is linguistic context. Understanding the immediate linguistic context of a word or phrase is essential. 2. Referential context. The reference of words or phrase to other parts of the text is important. Number 3 is cultural context. Understanding the cultural background and context is vital in literal translation, as cultural nuances can significantly affect the meaning. Number 4 is historical context. Some word or phrase may have evolved in meaning over time, so understanding the historical context of the text can help in choosing the right translation. And the last one is pragmatic context. Pragmatics deals with how language is used in communication. So the conclusion is translation is the process of conveying meaning from a source language to a target language. Various definitions of translation exist. One approach is literal translation, which involves translating each word individually without considering how they function in phrase or sentence, resulting in a word-for-word translation. Effective translation requires considering context, including grammar, syntax, and cultural references, as grammar is a fundamental aspect of language that conveys thought. It's crucial to choose the right words to accurately convey the intended meaning. Elegant variation using synonym and colloquialism can showcase a translator's skills, but may make the text impressive while sacrificing reader friendliness. I think that's all from me. I give it back to moderator.
All right, thank you, Siti Marita, for your presentation. Maybe that's all from us. I hope you enjoy our presentation, and thank you for your participation. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.